Hello everyone and welcome to the NBA and NASCAR Power Half Hour. I'm your host, James McDaniels, and we've got another great show on tap for you guys today. We've got so many things to talk about today. We have so many things NBA related and NASCAR related to talk to you guys all about today. This is the start, really, of my portion of the summer series here on the National Sports Network. So it's going to be pretty awesome. I'm going to have two shows. One, my show that I currently have now, and then I'll also have another show regarding all the other types of sports that are not NBA and NASCAR that I'll also do during the week during the summer. So pretty exciting. We got a lot of activity going here on the National Sports Network, and I've actually got one of the people here, one of the main people here at National Sports. Robert Dieter is with me. He's one of the founders of National Sports Network. He does his own shows every week, and it's always great to have him on. So he's on today to talk about the NBA Finals, Jason Kidd, and also the Clippers coaching situation. So Robert, first question I have for you, I just want to start straight off the top and ask you a question based on what everybody's saying, and they're all saying that this NBA Finals was probably one of the best, if not the best, NBA Finals that we've seen in the last 20 years. Would you agree or disagree with that statement, and why?
I would agree because, these games were hard fought by both sides, but, both of them had their struggles. You see Manu Ginobili is struggling late and coming late with injuries and everything. He had about a couple of games. The bench for Miami did good in some games, and in some other cases, the starters just had to go out there and do their thing. And, the very last game, it came down to see who had the momentum. The Spurs had the chances to, get the lead, tie it up, and they couldn't take advantage of it. LeBron really carried the team for the Heat. Tim Duncan and Tony Parker did well. I think the Spurs could have had Game 7 if Tony Parker wasn't shut out, in my opinion, because, he averaged about 11 points throughout the NBA Finals, which I think he could have done a lot more better than what he did. So, I think this was good. Yeah, it's one of the best, because, went to a Game 7, it was close, but, Stanley Cup playoffs also was a close one, too. I would say that was more intense than the NBA Finals.
All right, I can see that. Yeah, I remember watching the Blackhawks game last night. I don't watch hockey too often unless the San Jose Sharks are playing, and that was absolutely insane how the Blackhawks came back last night, scoring 2 goals in the final minute 30 to come and win it in Game 6 when it almost looked for sure that the series was going to go to a Game 7, and that series was always pretty close. But getting back to the NBA now, I want to take you back to Game 6. Of course, Game 6, we all thought pretty much that the Spurs were going to take it to a Game 7, it did go to a Game 7. I'm saying that the Spurs actually thought they were going to win the championship in Game 6. There we go. So we all thought the Spurs had the championship won with about 30 seconds left, and then you had that crazy comeback from the Heat. So, I say that everybody did it. How about you? Did you have any feeling in Game 6 when it came down to it, when the Spurs got that 5-point lead with about 30 seconds remaining, that the Spurs were going to take the championship in 6 games? Did you seriously think that the Heat were going to not win the championship this year?
Game 6 was intense, but, those last 30 seconds, you never know what's going to happen in 30 seconds. Teams come back just like that. Then you get the momentum with them, and they can win. But, the Spurs just couldn't hold them. Miami just came out fire, and, what was disappointing that game was, man, Miami sees Kansas leaving, David Kerr, and then when they leave, they're like, oh, overtime, and they're trying to get back in. No, that's not good sportsmanship at all. I remember Chris Bosh saying, oh, you're not in your bench, you're not playing. If you leave, like, during the game, and you think we're going to lose, something can happen, and we come back just like that. You guys are true fans who never come back, and then LeBron says, oh, we'll play better, and he wants publicity, so, that's just LeBron. But that Game 6, I had no intentions of the Heat coming back.
Yeah, I agree too. I mean, when I was watching Game 6, honestly, with about 30 seconds left, I'm like, this is all over. I'm going to see the Spurs, hoist that championship trophy. And then two, big shots that the Heat made, including that three by Allen. And I watched that three by Allen so many times, and it's almost incredible how he was able to shoot that, right over Parker and swish it like it was nothing. I mean, and you answered the question I was going to ask you next about the Heat fans. The fans, I mean, when I first saw the fans left, I kind of felt sorry for them, but then looking back on it, it's like, no, if you were a true fan, you would have stayed the whole time. I mean, I know when I go to any NBA game that has the Sacramento Kings in it, no matter how much down or up the Kings are, I'm staying at that arena, and I stay there pretty much the entire game. And if I leave, it might be with maybe half a minute left to go if they're down by, a big bunch. The only time I think I ever shut a Kings game off was when they came back from a few years ago against the Chicago Bulls. They were down 35 in the third, and I knew that the Kings usually don't come back from 10-point leads usually. So when they were down by 35, I screwed it and said, you know what, I'm just gonna turn the game off. Grandpa calls me next morning, says the Kings won. I have to watch the game all over again to even believe that the Kings came back and won it from being 35 down. So it shows you just what can happen if you leave a game too early and you really are not a big fan. Of course, I'm a big fan of the Kings, and I watch all their games that I can. But that was the one time I shut it off, and the Kings came back and won. So yeah, I can kind of feel the same thing that Heat fans did. But when it's 5 points in 30 seconds, NBA Finals, anything can happen. So let's move off of the NBA Finals because you did answer the question that I did have. Or no, wait. I have one more question for you regarding the NBA Finals. Game 7. I think the Spurs were down by 2 points with about, 50 seconds left. Tim Duncan takes a hook shot that, is one of those shots that he would usually make, and he misses it. Do you think he should be so hard on himself that he was at that Game 7 press conference about missing that shot, considering of how big of a post player he's been in his entire career? And that was a very important shot for him, and he missed it. Do you think he should have been that hard on himself?
At that point in the game, and he had to, if he would have made that, that would have tied it up. But the Spurs, they should have made shots before that. It shouldn't be all Tim Duncan's fault because they had chances to take the lead. They had chances to tie it. Kawhi Leonard missed the big three. Manu Ginobili just couldn't shoot it all that night, and he was going for some shots that I thought weren't even right. And then getting shut out, Tony Parker, that was just all bad. So when you look at it, it shouldn't be all on Tim Duncan. But I wish Tony Parker, if he wasn't shut out, I think they could have probably just won. It's a team effort. It's not one person that can really carry the team unless you're Miami Heat and you have LeBron James.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's all a team effort when it comes to, playing basketball, winning a championship. It's not all really one person, because if you try to do it one person, I've seen the Kings do this, is when they'll try to play selfish basketball, and it never works. When they pass that ball, they get so many easy points. So it just shows you how much teamwork, really is required to go high in the sport of basketball. And I also got one more question while I'm thinking about it, about NBA Finals for you. How impressed? I'm pretty sure you're pretty impressed about Danny Green and how many threes he was able to make during that NBA Finals, setting a new Finals record for the amount of three-pointers made. I mean, obviously, I don't think anybody expected it coming, but did you have any feeling that Danny Green could have possibly did anything close to what, he did in these Finals and surprised everybody?
No, not at all. I didn't, I was kind of shocked. I'm like, wow, Danny Green's making all these threes in this game. And then he's like, he sees Ray Allen, he's like, yeah, I'm beating your record right now.
Yeah, I remember that face too. They were showing Ray Allen's face when Danny Green hit that final three to settle things on that record, and it was just an unbelievable, face. It's one of those faces that you don't see like ever. So, all right, so we'll get off the NBA Finals now because I know you don't have that much time. So let's get to the other two things I wanted to ask you about pretty quickly. First off, Jason Kidd, he has retired after a ton of seasons, 18 full seasons, I think, 18 or 19, somewhere around that. So, honestly, first off, do you think Jason Kidd, being second all-time in both steals and assists, both second only to John Stockton, and also, I believe he's third in 3-point scoring. So do you think he should be considered an all-star in terms of Hall of Famer? Should he get put into the Hall of Fame, Jason Kidd?
He should be put in the Hall of Fame. I mean, I think he played the game right. He didn't do anything wrong. This guy's been a mentor to other players. He's a veteran now. Now he's a head coach for the Brooklyn Nets, and that's gonna be an interesting move. Just right coming out again after playing like 18, 19 seasons. Now he just comes to a head coaching job. So I think, I think he could be considered a Hall of Famer. Let's just see how his coaching career goes. I think that'll be really interesting to find out how he does his first year with the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, that Brooklyn Nets thing, that was the other question I was going to ask you about Jason Kidd, is the fact that he went from immediately being a player to now he's a head coach of the team that he previously played on when they were back in New Jersey. I mean, the Nets, I know this year under their previous coach made the playoffs, and I remember being on ESPN polls and whatnot, and their polls were saying that most of the fans believe that the first season for the Nets under their new previous coach from last season was rated a B. Where do you think the rating could possibly be for Jason Kidd as a head coach taking the Brooklyn Nets now after the Brooklyn Nets did so well with their previous coach who was surprisingly fired? How do you think, what's going to be the key to make this first season successful so Jason Kidd won't get fired from basically his own team?
Pretty much he just needs to keep the team focused. I think, he helped the Brooklyn Nets before because he played for years, I believe, in the playoffs with them. So I think, he just has to keep them in, contending in the playoffs. They can't have losing records. They have to start off well. You got Brooke Lopez, Jerome Williams, and, they have a problem with C.J. Watson right now demanding more money. And, just some bad situations going on for them right now with money and salary cap. It just depends on the players they get. I heard they might be getting Josh Smith, so, they're down low. They're going to probably be focusing on a lot. They have good backups right now. Keith Bogies isn't that bad. And they do have C.J. Watson back. They continue to do well under Jason Kidd. I mean, he was the point guard. And, I think he'll make Jerome Williams the leader of the team. He already is, but I think he can just keep on being going and have good teamwork. And, it's surprising with the Nets, too, because, some of these coaches have been fired only after 2 months. So, it's going to be an interesting way on a scale from 1 to 10 on how he'll do. I think he'll make the playoffs, so I have to give him a name.
Yeah, I'll agree on the fact that teamwork's going to be crucial for Jason Kidd, because I think it might be easier for him to teach the guys on the team leadership, considering he is the second all-time in assists, so he might be able to, really run some plays with the team. And I read somewhere that one of the reasons that they chose Jason Kidd was because Jason Kidd, he didn't just sit down when the people were talking to him. He actually went up to a board and started writing plays that would be good for the team based on their chemistry and what he knows about passing the ball. So I think teamwork, passing the ball is going to be a huge key to see how good of a coach Jason Kidd can be. And the final question before you go, Robert, because I know you're going to have to get back to work soon, is the fact that we have all this coaching carousel going on basically this offseason. We had so many coaches from the Memphis Grizzlies to the Clippers just all getting fired from their jobs, and also the Brooklyn Nets coach all getting fired from their jobs, even though they took their team to the playoffs. And in the Grizzlies' case, it was the highest playoff level that the team has ever gotten in franchise history, and they still fire him. But I know you understand the Clippers situation, so give us some insight on the Clippers coaching. If it's Clippers coaching situations. So then maybe it could spread a light on maybe why all these other teams are firing their head coaches, even though they're bringing their teams to the playoffs.
But the decision of firing Vinny Del Negro was probably a bad decision in my opinion. You know, he was a great coach, and you know, now I'm hearing Chris Paul might not come back because of that. But now we have Doc Rivers. It's going to be an interesting situation. Doc Rivers brings a championship momentum to the side. I think this guy's a great coach. No doubt he led the Boston Celtics to the playoffs. They didn't do very well, but you know, they did good enough because they didn't have Rajon Rondo either, so you got to imagine that situation. But overall, I think, you know, Vinny Del Negro should have not been fired. He was a great coach. Just because they didn't make the finals or anything doesn't mean I don't think he should be fired, but also any other coach that makes the playoffs shouldn't be. I mean, right now, the Warriors, with Mark Jackson, I mean, he didn't get fired. He actually has a 2-year extension now for actually leading the team to playoffs. So let's get back on the Clippers side here. You know, with Doc Rivers and everything, I think this team can have a big change, and I know they're trying to get Kevin, Garnett. They're trying to get Garnett over to the Clippers side, and it isn't working out right now, which, you know, they can't really trade right now. I don't think it's going to happen. But, you know, besides that, you know, it's just going to see what happens. I think Doc Rivers should maybe actually lead his team more in the playoffs. I don't think they'll win NBA Finals. It just depends where the Miami Heat are going to do this year, because of these 2 championships in a row, and they still might have the big 3. It just depends on Chris Bosh's future.
Yeah, I'll agree too on the fact that Chris Bosh's future might be huge for the Heat, because I mean, Chris Bosh, he's been a great player for a pretty long time, but the question is, just like Tim Duncan, when are they going to start going downhill? And then that's going to really change things. And with the fact of these new NBA coaches, I mean, when you had Rick Allen up in Sacramento, he would lead his team. He may not get him a championship. He almost did in 2002, but you know, he got him to the playoffs, and as soon as Rick Allen got fired, the Kings have never made it back to the playoffs ever since. So, considering that, that's how big a coaching change can make for a team. Because you have the Kings as a perfect example of that. You had one coach, everything was a success. As soon as you changed the coach because he wasn't getting you a championship, even though he was getting you to the playoffs, then everything goes way downhill. So who knows what will happen with these teams, but it sounds, at least in the Clippers situation, like with Doc Rivers and Garnett, it looks like they're going to try to keep the team as good as they currently have it now, because it's never been this good in terms of the Clippers franchise. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. But I'm just putting it out there that putting a simple coaching change can sometimes change the whole aspect of a franchise and either cause them to go all the uphill or all the downhill. In Kingsland right now, we're hoping that the new GM and the new coach and the new owner will go get the team from all its downhill right now to the top hill. Thank you, Robert, for being on today's show, giving us all your NBA insight. It is always great to talk to you, and I love having you on.
Alright, thanks, James, and I'll talk to you later.
Alright, talk to you soon, Robert. Alright, so that was Robert Dieters. Of course, Robert Dieters, again, plays a pretty important role in national sports, with the fact that, you know, he started it, he runs a show here. In fact, he did an 85-minute show not too long ago, and with all the summer, of course, now around here, he wants all the people in national sports to start doing like 2 shows a week. So I'll keep doing my show every week, and then I'll start trying to do all the other sports, and also in another show. Of course, I also do write sports for a local newspaper in my community, so that takes up time during the school year, so that's why I'll go back to doing only 1 show basically a week when I get school back in. I'll be a senior this year. It's going to be awesome. But enough about me. Let's get back to the sports. So before I go on, talk about Infineon, the experience that I had, and the great racing we saw there this week. I want to go and talk a little bit about Scottie Pippen. Now, of course, Scottie Pippen's a Hall of Famer, NBA Hall of Famer. He's very famous, really, in the sport of basketball. He's been he was a great player for many years. But now, all of a sudden, his life's kind of turning upside down a little bit, Scottie Pippen has been questioned basically by police after he got in a fight in Malibu when somebody tried to take his picture like a lot of times inside I don't know, some kind of fight somewhere in Malibu. And Scottie Pippen, I guess, got pretty angry that somebody was taking all these pictures and wanted an autograph from him and stuff like that. So, I mean, we'll see how it comes out to be. Pippen has voluntarily went into the police department. Police are saying that he is communicating with them just fine. So we'll see what comes out of it. But I thought I'd just tell you guys because it is kind of making the sports world. Scottie Pippen right now, kind of maybe not even a person of interest, but just somebody who's been talked to about a fight in Malibu after somebody was trying to take pictures and wanting an autograph from him, and then things got apparently violent between him and the person that was wanting that autograph. So we'll see how it comes out, but that's the latest right now. Pippen, just to show you how much of an all-star he was, he won 6 NBA titles with Michael Jordan and the Bulls, and in 1996 he was named one of NBA's 50 greatest players. He was inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame in 2010. So that is Scottie Pippen for you in a heartbeat. So let's go to the Sonoma race now in NASCAR. It's been quite a while since I've talked about NASCAR. I mean, there's so many races to go through every year, and it's kind of hard to summarize them. It's a lot easier when you're actually there in live person seeing the race for yourself. That's what happened to me this week. I was actually at the Sonoma race. I was in Turn 2. And Turn 2 is basically, not the first corner. It's like right behind the grandstand when they're coming up this little tiny hill, and there's just this tiny little S, and then it goes through with just a little short straightaway. I was up in that corner. It was a great view. Not the greatest view, but a great view. We could probably see at least half the track. We could see where the turning area was at the top part of Infineon, where they have like the two corners that kind of make up like a first square or something, like the two corners of a square. We were able to see the second one of those turns, and then we could see all the way through the S's. And then when they got down to about the Turn 11, Turn 10 area, we couldn't see him again. And then all through the grandstands, we couldn't see him. And then Turn 3 and Turn 4, whatever, we couldn't see him there either. So we could see about half the track, but really only one passing area. And the cars around us were going pretty slow when they were coming up the turn, because the turn is just like, there's no banking on it really, so you can't really get you can't really go fast around the corner. But anyway, that's where we were sitting. But we actually got a pretty good race. In all, we had Ambrose was in the lead, McMurray was in the lead a few times during that race. McMurray I remember him going through the grass one time later in the race. But let's see. We had Martin Truex Jr. was the ultimate winner of this race. He actually he won by a huge amount of margin. He just pulled away from Montoya and Gordon and all those people later in the race. Now Gordon had in Gordon's case, of course, I'm a Gordon fan, so I've been a Jeff Gordon fan, so I was rooting for him the whole time, cheering on him every time I saw him pass a car, or any time I saw him that he had passed a car in turn 11 or something like that. I'd be getting all excited and stuff. But Jeff Gordon, he actually finished second. Juan Pablo Montoya ran out of gas on the next to last lap, and he barely, and I mean just barely, made it across the finish line to finish the race with that Target car that he had, because that's where he ran out of gas. And first I thought Jeff Gordon was making a huge run on the last lap at him, and then I realized that Montoya was out of gas. So fans were standing all around me, kind of cheering a little bit. I mean, people, for some reason, I don't think people like Montoya. I mean, they still get a laugh out of him after that wreck that he had I think a year or 2 years ago at Daytona, where he slammed into a jet dryer. So I don't know why people are against him. He really hasn't done anything wrong. I think just people, just like Kyle Busch, it's like people just, for some reason, more people don't like them than like them. Who knows? But anyway, so Kyle Busch, speaking of Kyle Busch, he also had a pretty bad day. Kyle Busch had a really bad day. There was just so many times I looked down the track and realized that he wasn't, doing that great, and he was wrecking and everything. It wasn't that fun of a day for him. But as for me, it was pretty fun. Like I said, Jeff Gordon, he did pretty well. He came up, finished second in the race far too much behind Martin Truex. If he would have gone a caution flag, though, his car was dead fast, and he would have probably got Martin Truex on the restart. So let's see, what other things? In terms of racing, that was pretty much it. Martin Truex won the race. Jeff Gordon finished second. I think Carl Edwards finished third. And then in the standings, Jeff Gordon moved up to 13th spot. A lot of shakeup in the standings because Denny Hamlin had wrecked. Like I said, Kyle Busch had a really bad day. McMurray had trouble late. Ambrose did pretty good. He actually finished in the top 10, so that was pretty good for him. Just kind of where he was last year. He's a really good road course racer, but he just couldn't get it done at Infineon. He and Keselowski, I think, are a lot better at Watkins Glen. But even after the fact, Jeff Gordon, I read somewhere on Facebook from Jeff Gordon's page that Jeff Gordon said that he still wants to see changes from the Gen 6 car, and he'll talk to NASCAR about it in terms of being on the road course, because he just couldn't. Because he's just like, the car, the car still needs to be worked on, a little bit to make it better for road course racing and turning right instead of turning left. So he'll talk to NASCAR about that, and we'll see what comes out of it. Who knows how much will actually come out of it, but I think from an experienced road course racer like Gordon, any good tips from him might be actually taken pretty seriously. So that was pretty much the race. That was pretty much the entire race, basically. But let's. I want to tell you guys, while I have my final 4 minutes here, about the experience I got to have. VIP stuff. We got pit passes, and I tell you, when you're in the pits and you're right behind the press and you're right there behind the pit pass boxes or whatever, they're pretty crazy. The pit boxes, get to see. I mean, they look so much smaller than what they actually look on TV. It's kind of like basketball. Basketball, everything looks so tiny in real person when it seems like it's just a gigantic thing on TV. And the NASCARs too, they sounded and looked like in person. They looked a lot more. They almost looked like not model cars. I don't know what do you call it? Like a makeup kit car, a kit car. They almost look like kit cars in all honesty, and they sounded just like sprint cars almost. I mean, they really did. They seemed a lot different than what they do on TV. A lot smaller. They sounded different. And even though the sound is pretty loud, it didn't like crush your ears, but it probably crushed your ears. Not crush them though. I mean, they weren't that loud, but they were definitely a lot louder than you see them on TV unless you crank the volume all the way up. But that was my experience basically being with it. I didn't actually see Jeff Gordon come out. I did see some of the Fox guys doing one Fox guy doing his on pit road broadcast. I went all the way down pit road. Saw all the pit boxes, all the cars. It was so cool seeing them like right next to you and stuff, all the fans. I got to be at a luncheon. The luncheon was pretty sweet. They had some pretty good food. You could get a nice view of turn 2 with it, and then if you went out to these near the family seat section area, there was like these VIP seatings, and then you could seriously get a whole view of the track. I never went out there because I really did like my turn 2 seats, but probably should have, considering that this might be the one and only time I'll get a VIP experience such as that. So yeah, it was really cool to see. I actually was also on TV, to be quite honest. I was like, there's NASCAR race day somewhere. It's either on Speed or something like that, but I know they've got to be on. And it was near the end, and we finally found where they were doing it. Darrell Waltrip, Jeff Hammond, not Jeff Hammond, but Darrell Waltrip and two other guys that you see a lot on TV in terms of NASCAR on Fox and stuff like that. They were on there, and I was right behind there with my Jeff Gordon backpack, just waving it up high. I mean, it was so great seeing those guys in person on TV. I mean, seriously, the pit pass, the luncheon, the being on TV thing, just seeing how big the grandstand was, and just being there. And honestly, just being there is just an epic experience. And if you're any kind of a NASCAR fan, and if you have any kind of money, and there's a NASCAR race coming to you, I tell you, you need to go to a race. It is so much different than watching it on TV. You feel it's much more. It feels a lot better to see it in person than to just see it on TV. So if you got the money, you can go to a race. Go to one. That's for sure. Because Even though this might be a once-in-a-lifetime thing that I got to do, it was so cool to see those cars on pit road coming down, seeing the pit boxes, getting your pictures in front of them, being actually on pit road, seeing the pit lights. Just everything is just so much better in live person. So that actually does it for my show today. The NBA and NASCAR Power Half Hour. I am signing off, at least for this week's version of this show. I should be back in another 1 to 3 days, and do my other show. I'm still trying to come up with the title of it. I will leave the number in the description from now on regarding what number to call if you want to call into my show, or if you want to call me when my show is not going on, because I pre-record mine, and then we can get a time to have you come and speak on my show, because like I said, I don't do it live, so you wouldn't be able to tell when it is. So yeah, guys, this does it for this edition of the NBA NASCAR Power Half Hour, and until I see you all again, I hope you have a great day, a great week, and I'm signing off. Good night, everybody.